Now tell me, am I audible or not in the chat box? Audible, it's clear. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you everyone for responding. Yes. Now let me share my screen first. Is my screen visible? Yes, audible, but what about the screen? Yes, visible. Visible. So I think we discussed. Yes, yes, we 2D transforms and we discussed various transactions. So we applied few kinds of animations. We downloaded a spinner image and we applied timing delay along with some kind of effects. So those are linear, in, ease out. So we rotate and with different kinds of degrees also. So we rotate, yes. We used to rotate function for rotating a specific element. So we download an image and we rotated that. So that is all about, that is the final part for CSS. We started the increase the font size. Yes, I think it's clear now. Similarly, we discussed how we are going to declare a variable in JavaScript. So let me open the new console window, and from here we have to use Ctrl+Shift+I shortcut keys. We have to execute the programs from here. In the console window, so we can execute the JavaScript programs. So this is the console window. You can execute the JavaScript programs from here. Not visible. Just cross check it once. Yes. Anand responded that, so visible. Yes. Sir, can you tell once again? So, yes. Sir, while typing to execute JavaScript programs, it is showing undefined as output. Oh, okay. Okay, definitely. I will tell you why this is happening. Thank you, Sahiti, for asking these kind of questions. That's person's net issue. Okay. Thank you. Navin, thank you. Nagaraj is also responded. Yes, visible. Narendra is also responded. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. So we used console window, right? So when we are going to use any kind of statement, for example, I'm going to initialize a value. So that is where a equals to 9. So I declared a variable that is where a equals to 9. So we have to use where keyword along with the variable name, and we have to initialize a value. So once if you execute this, we are able to see undefined. So we are able to see this undefined because this console statement, each and every statement executes the return statement by default. You can type any statement that executes undefined as by default. This is a return statement. But we are not returning any kind of value from here. We just declared the variable. But in Google console window, each and every statement returns a by default value. So we don't have any kind of return statement in this. So we have only declaration part only. So when we are going to execute this, we are able to see undefined because this console returns a by default value. So here there is no return statement. That is the reason we are able to see undefined. So you have to type the complete script and then you have to press enter. For example, here I am going to use another variable that is where num equals to 9. I just used where num equals to 9. This is the variable declaration, that is the keyword, and this is the variable name, and this is the equal to symbol, and this is the value for this. Alright. Now if you want to type a new statement, you have to use shift plus enter symbols. Shift plus enter. So we have to use shift plus enter. So I just used shift plus enter to type a new line. Here I am going to use type of function, type of, and I am going to use the number. Here number is the variable name we already declared in the above statement. So the statement declarations and statement implementations are completed. If you want to execute this code, you can use the enter keyword. So enter keyword is available in our system, right? So you can execute from there. So let me use enter keyword. So we are able to see this is a number kind of data. If you observe that when we are going to type multiple statements, we have to use shift plus enter. If you want to execute the code, you have to use the enter keyword only. Similarly, I am going to use another data type. For example, I have a boolean value. So we have only few kinds of boolean values, right? So those are true or false. So I'm going to declare the true value. So if you want to execute this, we have to type the type of predefined function and we have to use the variable name, that is bool. So this is a boolean kind of data. This is a boolean kind of data. Similarly, when we are going to use a null value, for example, where h is the default a customized variable. I'm going to use h as the parameter, h as the variable name, and similarly I'm going to use null. Null is the value for this. So when we are going to execute the type of this null value, it returns object as the output. For example, I'm going to execute the type of and the variable name is h. When we are going to execute the statement, we can get the boolean as the value for this null, but null is not an object. So object is nothing but collection of data elements. This is not a collection, right? So null value is not a collection, but we are able to see the object as the output. So why is this happening? Remember everyone, when we are going to declare an array or any kind of other collections, for example, I'm going to use array equals to, so I declared an empty array. So an empty array is nothing but we have null value in it. By default, a null value available in it. So when we are going to use the elements, the null value will be removed and the elements will be added. But if the no elements are there, so we don't have any elements in the array, then by default the array element is having a null value in it. So when we are going to check the type of array, again we are able to see the object as the output. If you observe that, if you declare an empty array that holds a null value in it, that is the reason when we are going to use a null value as a data, we can get the type of that as an object, because each and every null value is included in objects. When we are going to declare an array or an object, so we have to use the null symbol or null. So that is the reason when we are going to execute the type of for null, it will returns object as an output. Voice is breaking now. So just check your internet access once. Anand. So am I audible, right? It's clear. Yes. Thank you. Yes, working fine. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you. So are you able to follow the session? Are you able to understand each and every concept? So because we need to work on these concepts future. Yes. Thank you. So if you are having any kind of doubts, just respond in the chat box so that I can clarify your queries. Yes. So here we used a null value and object. All right. So I am going to use a variable, that is var, and I am going to use h. Not h, I am going to use something like abc. I just used var abc. I just used var abc. So when we are going to print that abc, what will happen? So I'm going to use the type of abc. So we didn't assign any kind of value to it. Remember, let me print. So we are able to see undefined because we declared a variable, but we didn't initialize any kind of value to it. That is the reason we are able to see undefined as the result. So if you observe this, so we declared the variable, but we didn't initialize it anywhere. So that is the reason we are able to see undefined as the output. Very similar to this, I am going to use the type of, and I am going to use z. Actually, z is not available, right? Z, we didn't declare any kind of variable with the name of z, but we are using type of. So if you observe this, we are able to see undefined again. We are able to get undefined again. Very similar to this, I am going to print ABC only. So I am going to print ABC only. If you observe this, we are able to see undefined again. Very similar to this, I am going to use z. So z is didn't declare. So z, we didn't declare any kind of value or variable with the name of z. But when we are going to execute this, we are able to see z is not defined. Remember, so if you declare a variable but didn't initialize any kind of value to it, so if you declare a variable but we didn't initialize any kind of value to it, so that is the reason we are able to get undefined as the result. But when we are going to execute a non-defined value, we are able to see not defined as the output. I hope you might be understood what is the difference between undefined and not defined. Is it clear, everyone? Now tell me, what is the difference between undefined and not defined? Just respond in the chat box. What is the difference between undefined and not defined? Anyone? Please repeat not defined. Okay, Sahidi, thank you. Definitely I will repeat it. Don't worry, I will repeat entire procedure again. Just observe the coding part again. So I am going to use var sample. I just used sample. If you observe this, we just declared, we didn't initialize any kind of value to it. Alright, so I am going to execute the variable now. If you want to execute the variable, we have to use the variable name. I just used sample, that's it. I just used sample. If you observe this, we are able to get undefined as the result. Undefined as the result. Similarly, I am going to use sample1. Is sample1 available? No, we didn't declare the variable. So we just declared a variable with the name of sample. That's it. We didn't declare any kind of value with the name of sample1, right? So we didn't declare that. So when we're going to execute that, we are able to see not defined as the output. This is the difference between undefined and not defined. If you execute the sample directly, but sample is declared, but we didn't initialize any kind of value to it. That is the reason we are able to see the output as undefined. Similarly, here we used sample1. Sample1 is not declared and not initialized also. So that is the reason we are able to see not defined as the result. So this is the difference between undefined and not defined. Very similar to this, when we are going to declare a variable by using initialization also. For example, I am going to use sample2 as a variable name, and I am going to declare a variable that is 5. And I would like to execute the value, so we have to use sample2. Sample2 is already declared here. I am going to execute now. Now we are able to see the result. Because this is properly assigned a value. That is the reason we are able to see the result. But here we declared a variable, but we didn't initialize any kind of value. That is the reason when we are going to execute the statement, we are able to see undefined as the result. Similarly, sample 1 is not defined till now, right? So we didn't define any kind of value with the name of sample 1. That is the reason we are able to see not defined as the output. Yes, we are getting few kinds of responses. So yes. So first one, Chaitanya Krishna has responded, type of variable is not mentioned. No, that means, so when we are going to declare a variable without initialization, we can get undefined as the value. If you didn't declare any kind of value or variable, then we can see the value as not defined. So that is the difference. Declaration and not declaration. Both are common. Those are not initialized with any kind of value. So we didn't initialize any kind of value in both the statements. But the first one is declared. The second one is not declared. That is the reason we are able to see undefined as the result for the first one. Similarly, not defined as the result for the second one. Yes, we are getting few kinds of responses. If the value is not defined, we get undefined. Okay. If the variable is not defined, we get undefined. Not defined. Yes, yes. Nagaraj is also responded 5. Yes, yes. That answer for the sample 2 statement. Okay. Mahesh also responded. Undefined means value is not assigned. Okay. 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 Thank you. Thank you for responding. Can't we do JavaScript directly on HTML? I will tell you. Purna Sai. Definitely we will work on that. So declare without value. Yes, yes. Most of the people are responding. Thank you. So this is very, very important. So when we are going to get proper responses, then we can be more practical. Variable should not be initialized is called undefined. Yes. Not defined means where is not, that means variable is not declared. That's it. Yes. Thank you. Now, these are the different kinds of data types available in JavaScript. And the final data type is function. I'm going to declare a function that is addition. I'm going to use addition function. I'm going to use a console.log statement. So simply addition, not an addition, we have to start with simple greet program. So I'm going to use a greet, that is function space greet. Greet is the function here. So this is the function name. We have to use the function keyword for declaring a function. And in this, I'm going to use a console.log statement. I will tell you what is console.log. Console.log is just displaying an info in the console window. So I am going to use a string that is hello world. Clear. So if you want to execute this function, we have to call this first. If you observe this, by default we are able to see undefined as the result. So we have to use greet. Greet. Now we are able to see hello world. But this function doesn't have any kind of return type. That is the reason we are able to see undefined as a result each and every time. We are able to see the result as well as we are able to see undefined also, because this is the return type for the function, but we didn't use any kind of return type. That is the reason we are able to see undefined as a result. Very similar to this, I am going to use another function that is greet1. Greet1, and I am going to use a return statement. Return. So from the function, I am going to return a value, that is hello world. That is the string kind of data. So now we have to execute this program. So now we just implemented this. When we are going to execute this program, we have to use the function name. Greet1. Greet1 is the function name. And if you observe this, we were not able to see any kind of value that is undefined. We're not able to see any kind of undefined because this function is having return statement. That is the reason we can get the value directly without getting any kind of undefined. So this is the difference why the Google console prints undefined each and every time. Each and every statement will return a return statement by default. But most of the statements are not having any kind of return statements. That is the reason most of the statements are getting undefined as a result. When we are going to use a return statement for the function, when we are going to call the function, we can get the information directly without getting any kind of undefined as a result. This is the difference between how we are going to return a value and without a return value in the function. If a variable is defined but not initialized, that is no value is assigned to it before accessing, then yes. All right. Now let me print the type of grid one, a type of grid. So type of grid. Type type grid. That's it. So grid function, grid is already there. So I'm going to use that grid. So when we're going to execute this, we are able to see this is a function. But when we are going to use the parenthesis, so because this is a function, right? Grid is a function. Even we are able to see undefined as a result because we are printing the value directly. We are executing the function directly. That is the reason we are able to see hello world and similarly undefined. So this is the difference. So if you want to take the type of the grid, the function as a result of it returns the values hello world, and similarly we didn't use any kind of return statement in the grid. That is the reason it returns undefined as a result. Similarly, I am going to use type of grid one. If you observe this, we are able to see string one. String. We are able to see string because in grid one we type of the string. So that is the reason we are able to see the string as an output. Yes. So I hope you might be understood these concepts. String, boolean, null value, object, object, function, and undefined and not defined. So these are the different data types available in JavaScript.
Excuse me, Haman sir. Your screen is stopping. Would
Yes,
you please
yes.
share again? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Excuse me, Hanuman sir.
Is not visible. Yes, yes. I am rectifying that error and resolving this. Yes. Sir, can we execute only JavaScript in Conserved? Yes, yes. We can execute JavaScript only. In the page. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir. It's clear right now.
Yes. Let me share my screen first. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Kindly confirm it. Are you able to observe my screen or not? Yes. So I'm able to get proper internet access more than 15 Mbps, but this app consuming lack of MB. That is the reason sometimes it's happened while sharing internet speed. More data. Now it's visible. Okay. So now we have to discuss the concept of conversions. So how we are going to use conversion statements in JavaScript. So that is very, very important. So I'm going to use a new tab. I'm going to use a console window again. So here I'm going to use a string kind of data. str equals to, I'm going to use 1, 2, 3. So we are able to see this is a string kind of data when we are going to use type of function. Type of, and I'm going to use str as the parameter. We're able to see this is a string kind of data. So if you want to convert this string into a number kind of data, for example, 1, 2, 3 is there, right? So you can convert this. This is digits. This is a number kind of data, but it enclosed with double quotations. So that is the reason we consider it as a string. So if you want to convert it into a number kind of data, so we have to use number function. For example, str equals to number of str. So we are converting str into a number kind of data. Similarly, we are storing that value into not str, type of str. I'm going to execute the type of. The result is number now. So we are able to see this is a number kind of data. Initially, we declared a value, but it is enclosed with double quotations. This is a number, but we enclosed with double quotations. That is the reason we got string as the output.
Excuse me,
Very
Hanuman.
similar to this, we are using a number function for conversion and passed the string parameter here. Similarly, once if you check this type of str, we are able to observe the value, that is number. So this is one of the conversion statement. Number is one of the conversion statement. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, Rajesh sir. It's not. Rajesh sir, once if you are facing, if the students are facing any kind of issue, just respond. Just let me know. So
Yes, sir, definitely.
yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, so this is the conversion statement. So we used number of function. Number is a predefined function for converting a string kind of data into number kind. Similarly, we have parseInt and parseFloat. Let me explain them also. So for example, I'm going to declare a variable that is integer kind of data. So no, floating kind of data. For example, where number equals to, so I'm going to use 123.59. 123.59 where number equals to 123.59. So I'm going to use parseInt function. Number equals to parseInt. ParseInt, and I'm going to use the number. So we are removing all the decimal values from this. So let me execute the number again. Now we are able to see 123 only. Similarly, I am going to declare a variable in the format of string, that is str1 equals to 123.65. So this is the floating point number enclosed with double quotations. Finally, it is a string kind of data. So I am going to use str1 equals to parseInt of str1. Now let me check the type of this value. First of all, let me print the str1. Now 1, 2, 3 is the result. We are removing the decimal values from this. Similarly, I am going to check the type of str1. Now we are able to see this is a number kind of data. So we have a few kinds of conversion functions available. The first function is number, and second one is parseInt, and the final one is parseFloat. ParseFloat is completely opposite to the integer. The name itself, we can get the floating point numbers. So here str1 is 123.65. I am going to use where str2 equals to, I am going to use 231 or 232.56, and similarly I am going to use a parseFloat. str2 equals to parseFloat, and I am going to use str2 here. So we can get the floating point number. So finally I am going to print str2. Now we are able to see the floating point number. Even once, if you want to check the type of the value, that is str2, type of str2, even we are able to see number kind of data. This is number as a result. So this is all about the parseFloat function. We can see the parseFloat and number functions are remain same. We can get the same kind of result. But parseInt is completely different. We can eliminate the decimal values if you are having any kind of floating point numbers. So this is all about the conversion statements in JavaScript. So we have, yes, parseInt converts any data type into a numeric. For example, I am going to use another function, that is another variable, that is where value equals to true. I am going to use true. Alright. So again I am going to use value equals to number of value again. Now let me execute this. We are able to see 1. So we have an indication, that is 0 represents false statement, 1 indicates the true statement. I am going to use another variable here, that is value 2 equals to false, and I am going to use value 2 equals to number of value 2. Execute this. Now we are able to see 0. So this is the conversion statement. So we used to true, then we can able to see 1 as the result. Similarly, we used to false, we are able to see 0 as the result. Very similar to this, when we are going to apply any kind of string method. So we will discuss about the string concepts later, because we have a few functions for computing with strings. We will discuss each one of them later. So these three are the conversion statements in JavaScript: number, parseInt, and parseFloat. Conversion statements, those are number, parseInt, and parseFloat. These are the conversion statements. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Yes, clear. Yes, it's clear. Now it's time to discuss the concept of conserved statements in JavaScript. Remember, everyone, this is one of the output statements in JavaScript. We can get output by using this statement, conserved statement. So we have various kinds. For example, I'm going to use console.log This is the standard statement for defining or getting output. So I am going to use sample output. In console.log, I just used sample output. So once if you execute this, we are able to see sample output. And similarly, we are able to see undefined because we didn't define any kind of return statement for this. That is the reason we are able to see undefined as the result. This is the console.log. Similarly, if you want to display the value in the format of warning, we have to use console.warn. Console.warn, and I'm going to use this is a warning. Yes, if you observe this, we are able to see this is a warning. This is a warning format. This is a warning. And very similar to this, if you want to display that information in the format of error, so we have to use console.error. Console.error. So this is a error. This is a error. Let me execute this. Now we are able to see this is a error. In the format of error, we are able to see into mark in the left side. So this is the warning and this is the error message. Similarly, we have another statement that is asset. Let me use console.asset. It accepts only the false statements. So first of all, we have to define the false statement. That is the condition. If the condition returns the false statement, then we can display the error message. Something like error message. And execute. Now we are able to see assertion failed, error message. Very similar to this, I am going to use a function console.log. In this, the first parameter is false statement. So I am going to use 0 greater than 2. And I am going to use not possible. Not possible as a result. If you observe this, this is the false statement and we are able to see not possible here. Similarly, once if you execute the asset instead of log, we just use log, right? So let me use asset. I just used asset and I'm going to execute. Now if you observe this, assertion failed and this is not possible because this is the condition, this is indicates the false statement. That is the reason assertion failed and we are able to see not possible as a result. Similarly, if you execute that in console.log statement, we are able to see false statement. It executes both the statements. That is the first statement and this is the second statement. 0 greater than 2, that is a false statement. That is the reason we are able to see false. So if you are using less than symbol, it indicates true value. Once if you are getting any kind of failure statement, then only it returns a value. Otherwise, we can't get any kind of value from the asset method. If you execute this, we are not able to get any kind of value. It returns the value only when first parameter getting false, and the condition is false in the first parameter. Otherwise, it returns nothing. So these are the different kinds of console statements available in JavaScript. So we discussed console.log, console.warn, console.error, and console.asset. Similarly, I am going to use console.count. Let me execute. Now we are able to see 1 because we are counting the console statements. This is the first statement. When we are going to execute the console.count again, we are able to see 2. This is the second statement. We are counting. We are counting all the console statements. That is the reason we are able to see the 2 as a result. Similarly, I am going to use console.count again. We are able to see 3 here. This is all about the console.count. Alright. Now, very similar to this, by using info also we can display error or we can display any kind of information. This is very similar to the console.log. So whatever the information we are getting from the console.log statement, we can get the same kind of value from this info. I'm going to use hello world. Now we are able to see same kind of result. The console.log and console.info both are same. Both the console statements are same, console.log and console.var. Is that clear, everyone? Are you able to follow? Yes, we discussed different kinds of console statements. Yes, so let me document it first. Console statements. The first one is console.log. Next one is console.var. The next one is console.error. And the next one is console.asset. And console.count. And the final one is console.info. These are the different console statements available in JavaScript. Yes, definitely we will take real examples. Don't worry about it. So, Janardhan, thank you for asking this. So, most of the cases, we have to use this console.log statements for debugging only. So, I will show you how to use console.log statements in real time. But we have to be more practical. So, it will take much more time for practicing real time examples, because we are starting with the JavaScript from today onwards. So it will take little bit of time. So don't worry, definitely we will execute the real time examples on this. Say explain in Jupyter Notebook, it will be clear understanding for us. Yes, Jupyter Notebook is clear, but by default it supports Python. So we have to do some kind of modifications. Currently I am using Linux operating system, so we have to do much more effort. So that is the reason I didn't prefer any kind of Jupyter Notebook. If you observe this, everyone having the Google Chrome by default. In Google Chrome, we are able to see the console menu directly. So we need not to install any kind of IDE for executing JavaScript programs. The console window is enough for executing the JavaScript programs. So that is the reason I prefer this console statement. So if you want to use any kind of IDE, you can. But we have lack of IDEs are available for running JavaScript programs. But my choice is this console is best solution. This is very lightweight and we need not to utilize more RAM for this. Okay. Sir, how this course work? Useful software job works. So, who is that? Amarnath. So remember Amarnath. So you are learning this course not for getting job. This is not exactly for getting job. You have to learn something to do something with it. If you are okay with the JavaScript programs, JavaScript knowledge, if you have JavaScript knowledge, try to implement a product or a project. Yes. So don't search for a job. Just try to build a product. Just build a product. Don't search for a job first. So first of all, we have to focus on how we are going to develop a project or product. That is very, very important. If you are able to do that, you can settle anywhere. You are not bothering about any kind of jobs. You can develop your project and you can publish that, and you can use any kind of job search engines, something like Naukri or LinkedIn. you can apply that. Most of the people are consider your resume then. So first of all, just focusing on the product. Yes. Yes. Thank you. So this is all about the console statements, and the next is selection statements in JavaScript. So we have two kinds of selection statements, if and switch. So all of you are having knowledge on if and switch, right? So we need not to discuss about them again. So we will execute sample programs by using them. So because JavaScript syntax is little bit of different from the C programs, very little bit. So there are minor modifications in the syntax of JavaScript than comparing to C or any Java programs. Alright, so I'm going to use if condition first. So if, for example, I'm going to check a variable that is even or not. I'm going to declare a variable that is number. Number equals to, I'm going to use 45. So here this is not an even number. So we already know even numbers are all are divided by 2. So we can get the remainder as 0. So we can check that by using if condition. If number modulus 2 equals to 0, then it returns even. Console.log even. So this is if condition. This is simple if. So once if you are using a if condition, then it checks for the condition. So if number that is 45 modulus 2 equals 0, then we will return even number. So this is 45. We are not able to see 0 as the reminder for this. So once this condition is not satisfied, this directly terminate. This function will terminate directly. This is simple if. We can use else part also. So if the first condition is not satisfied, the second part of the condition will be executed. That is else condition will be executed. So that is console.log not an even number. Let me execute this. We are able to see not an even number. So we can use if else ladder also. We can use if, else if, else if, else if, and we can use final else also. So this is else if ladder. We can use else if, else if, else if, and so on. How many statements you want to execute, you can use that. Alright, so we need not to discuss about the selection statements again. Better to discuss the switch statement. Is that clear, everyone? The if condition. This is very traditional. So whatever the if condition we are developing in the C language, so we are doing same kind of procedure here also. Yes. So now it's better to discuss the switch concept in JS. So I'm going to use the switch statement here also. So we have to use few kinds of cases. For example, I'm going to use where day equals to 0. I just declared 0. I'm going to use switch statement, switch, and I'm going to use day. Switch day. So here we have to use cases. So case 0 is checking with the value of 0. So if the value is 0, then what we are going to do? So for example, I'm going to use a console statement here. Console.log Sunday. Similarly, this is completed. The case is completed. The case 0 is completed. So we have to use a break statement for termination. I'm going to use a break. Similarly, next one is case 2 or case 1. Case 1, I'm going to use console.log and I'm going to use Monday. And again we have to use the break. Alright, I'm going to declare another case. Case 2, and we have to use console statement again. Console.log, and this is Tuesday. Alright, this is Tuesday. And again we have to use break. Alright, so if the value is not matching anywhere in these cases, we have to use default. So let me use default here. Default, and I am going to use a console statement. It is Wednesday. Alright, so here we used day, that is 0. So we can get Sunday as the answer because this case is matching here. So let me execute. Now we are able to see Sunday as the result. And similarly, I am going to use 3. So 3 already given. No. 3, the case is not mentioned here. 3 is not mentioned here. So default console statement will be executed. So if you observe this, Wednesday will be executed. Wednesday executed here. So this is all about the switch statement. So these are the selection statements in Java. So we have if condition, we have a switch condition. Yes, case 0 prints Sunday. If the cases are not matching there, we can get the default value. So here we used 3 as the day value. The cases are not matching here. That is the reason default value will be executed. So we are able to see the Wednesday as the result here. We executed already. We are able to see Wednesday as a result. So this is all about the switch statement in JavaScript. Alright, now it's time to discuss the looping concepts in JavaScript. So we already know about this, looping concepts. So let me use while condition first, while loop. So first of all, we have to initialize a iteration statement. I'm going to use I equals to 0. So if I less than 10, that is once if while condition is satisfied, then the body statement will be executed. I'm going to print the console.log. Here I'm going to use I value. Alright, now similarly we have to execute I increment operator. So I plus equals to 1. So this is very similar to I plus plus. So we just used while I less than equals to 10. So initially it starts with 0 less than 10, that is condition is satisfied. So 0 will be printed and I value will be incremented. Similarly, it returns all the values that are below 10. So 0 to 9. So let me execute this. So 0 to 9. So this is the return statement. Don't consider this. So we are able to see some kind of code here. This is important. So this is the return statement. This is not a value. So we have 0 to 9 values only. 10 is the return statement because we already incremented this value. So it will, any loop, it will print the final result in the console statement. That is the reason we are able to observe 10 as a result also. But this is not correct. So this is not a value because we are not able to see any kind of coding here. This is all about while loop. Alright. Yes, it is necessary to put semicolon. No. So in the previous version of JavaScript, older version of JavaScript, we need to use semicolon. But now the JavaScript version is updated, so we need not use any kind of semicolon. So we are really practicing JavaScript programs, and we are developing few projects by using JavaScript. That is the reason semicolon is habituated for me. So that is the few kinds of sometimes we are using semicolon like this. We need not use semicolon. Alright, the next concept is do while program. So we have to implement the do while. So let me open the console, and I would like to clear all the stuff. And here I am going to declare a variable. So for example, that j equals 0 again. Alright, so we have to use do. So we are doing something in the do, but the condition is available in while. So I am going to use so what will we do? So I am going to execute the ij console.log. I am going to execute j value. Similarly, I am going to increment the j value here. So that is j plus equals to 1. So we are implementing the body part. If you want to declare the condition, we have to go with the while. So I am going to use while here. While j less than 5. So this condition is checking here. So let me execute this. Now we are able to see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is not an output. This is just return. So this is how we are going to use a do while in JavaScript. Similarly, we have another function, that is another loop, that is for loop. For that we have to use increment operator, that is where I equals to 0 and I less than 5, and we have to use increment or decrement. I am using increment for getting values from 0 to 5. So you can use console.log statement here. Console.log, and we can use I value. So let me print this. Now we are able to see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, if you want to get the information in the reverse order, so you can use for loop, and we can use decrement operator. I am going to use where I equals to 5. I greater than 0. Once I greater than equals to I greater than 0, then it will be executed, terminated. I greater than 0, and I am going to use I minus minus. So let me execute. So that is console.log. I am going to use I value again. Now we are able to see 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you want to print the 0 value also, you have to use greater than equals to. Greater than equals to. This is all about the looping statements in JavaScript. Is that clear, everyone? Is it clear? So this is very similar to the traditional C program. Each and every concept is very similar. So I hope you might be understood. Yes, clear. Now it's time to complete the concept of pop-ups. Pop-ups in JavaScript. So I'm going to clear all the console statements here. So now it's time to do the practical exposure on pop-ups. So I'm going to use alert. For getting a pop-up, we have to use alert. So alert, I'm going to use hello world, alert and hello world. So we have 3 kinds of pop-ups. Remember, everyone, the first one is alert. So by using this, we can get alert like this. We're able to see the alert in the browser. That is hello world. We're able to see the pop-up, that is hello world. Similarly, we have another one. So remember everyone, this is for showing the output, and if you want to get that information from the user, we have to use prompt, and I'm going to use enter a value. So once if you execute this, we're able to see a input box in the pop-up. So you can enter the value here, any value, and you can press OK. But you have to remember one thing: once if you get any kind of information from the prompt, it will be in string only. It will be in the format of string. So I'm going to click on OK. So we are able to see that is a string kind of data. This is a string kind of data. This is a string kind of data. This is prompt. This is we are getting information from the user. But by default, we are able to see the result as a string. Now tell me how we are going to convert a string value into a number. We can get the value from the prompt as a string, but how we are going to convert into a number? Can you respond, anyone? Value of? Is there any function with the value of? Yes, we can use parseInt. Manoj Kumar responded. We can use parseInt. And any other solutions? parseInt is okay. Yes, Chaitanya is also responded. We can use number function also. ParseInt number. No. We don't have any kind of integer. No. We don't have any kind of int functions. So we need to have number and parseInt. So let me apply int function once. What will happen? So for example, a equals to prompt of enter the value. Similarly, I'm going to use int of a. Let me execute. Now it's asked for input, and I've just typed something, and I'm just clicked OK. Now we're able to see int is not defined because we don't have any kind of function with int. So we have three conversion statements: number, parseInt, and parsefloat. Yes, we have to use parseInt. Yes, most of the people responded. We have to use parseInt, parsefloat, or number. Alright. So similarly, the next statement, that is confirm. So for example, confirm. Here we need to use are you sure want to delete it? So if you click on OK, so once if you execute this, we're able to see an alert with the value like are you sure want to delete it. Once if you click on cancel, we're able to see false statement as a result. Otherwise, if you click on OK, we're able to see true as the result. Let me click on cancel, we're able to see false. Similarly, if you click on OK, we're able to see true as a result. So these are the three pop-ups in JavaScript. The first one is alert, the second one is prompt, and the final one is confirm. First one is selection statement. We discussed selection statements. In that we discussed if and switch. And similarly, iteration statement. Iteration statements, in that we discussed while, do while, for loop. So in the switch we have few methods. That is simple if. We can use only simple, we can use only if. Similarly, if else, and if else later or else if later. So these are the concepts we discussed. Similarly, we discussed the pop-ups in JavaScript. Pop-ups. The first one is alert. The next one is prompt. And the final one is confirm. So these are the different kinds of pop-ups available in JavaScript. Nested if else, we can use that nested if else. So whatever it may be, we can consider it as a else if ladder only. We can use else nested ifs also. Okay, for your concern, I'm going to use nested if or nested else if also. So within if, we can use multiple if conditions. We can satisfy multiple if conditions based on that. Yes. So is that clear, everyone? So we discussed different kinds of variables and conversion statements, conserve statements, selection statements, iteration statements, and finally we discussed the pop-ups in JavaScript. Alright, so it's time to practice one example by using confirm or prompt. So I'm going to use a prompt. So this is user input, where user input equals to prompt of enter a value. Alright. If user input equals to 1, then it asks for another input, that is where check equals to prompt of enter the value for checking even condition. Alright, so how we are going to check that? So we have to check by using if condition. So if, remember, prompt returns a number kind of data by default, so we have to convert that into a string. By default we are getting a string kind of data, so we have to use number function. So if number of check modulus 2 equals to 0, then that is even, right? Console.log, and we have to print that is even number. Otherwise this is an odd number. Alright, so we have to use else statement also. Console.log, that is odd number. So this is inner if, and similarly we have to use else statement for the final if, the parent if. So in that we have to use console.warn, so something like option not found. So now we discussed this, we implemented this if condition. First of all, let me align this, all the stuff. So this is the first if, and this is the next if. So we have nested if, this is a nested if, and this is nested else. How many ifs are there? So we have only one if and yes. So this is the final else condition. So first of all, we are checking the input. If the user enters one value, it asks for the value for checking even row. So we are checking based on the conversion here. So we are converting the number into a number kind of data. Based on that, we are checking the value whether it is even or not. So let me execute, and it's time to enter the value. For example, I'm going to use 2. So option not found. We are able to see the warning as option not found. Similarly, the previous if you want to get the previous code, you have to use upper arrow from your keyboard. So this is the recently typed coding part, and I'm going to use 1 here. If the value is 1, it asks for another value for checking the even condition. I'm going to use 45. 45 is the odd number, so we're able to see odd number as the result. So this is about the prompts, the pop-ups in JavaScript. So we used prompt here. So most of the cases we have to work with the prompts. That is the reason we did practice on this prompt method. Is that clear, everyone? If I take user input as alphabet, is it converted into number? No. It's not possible. It's not possible. Nagasrija, it's not possible. Once again, I will execute that also. So where option equals to prompt, enter a value. All right. So yes, we are going to check the type of. So I'm going to use number. So based on that, I'm going to use type of number of option. Let me execute. So I'm using alphabets only. I'm going to click on OK. So this is a number kind of data, but once if you print the value, for example, this is OK. So we are going to print the number. So I'm going to remove the type of, and I'm going to print the number only. So we are typing the alphabets. So this is nan. It returns nan, not a number. This is not a number. By using script tag, we will see that in future. Yes. Sir, how to integrate HTML and JavaScript? Yes, we will discuss about that. Later we will discuss about it. So this is all about today's session, and we'll continue from tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We will see in the tomorrow session. Thank you. Feedback, I'm already shared the link in chat box. Would you please find it, or else I would like to share one more time. Click. Yeah, I'm already shared one more time. Would you please check it once? Thank you, guys. We will see in the tomorrow.